Vagabond, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Great. And I don't hear any feedback, so that's good. So yeah, mute your stream, otherwise you're gonna hear me 20 seconds from now, and we'll be all
There
sorts
you
of
go.
fun.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? So you've got three boys who all have autism?
Yes, I do. They're 11, 7, and 5.
Wow. You know, I applaud you. That cannot be that must be a challenge, and I hope it's rewarding.
It really is. I've got they're all at like different like areas on the spectrum. Like my oldest is like really really high functioning. Like he'd be considered Asperger's a few years ago before they combined everything into like one diagnosis. Uh, and my middle son though was the most severe. He was like the classic locked in autistic kid, like barely smiled, didn't speak. He's 7 now, and he just started speaking in like 2 to 3 word sentence.
Wow. And the youngest was 4, is what you said?
Yeah, the youngest is 5. His big
5.
delay was just speech, but he was like always very engaged, and did like lots of stuff that like little kids did and do, like walked on time, that sort of stuff. Like you could teach him things, like he's learning counting, he's going into speech is his only really big delay.
Well, my only child is my cat, so I can't even begin to try to imagine the difficulty of having one autistic child, let alone 3.
Well, it was a lot scarier. You know, like when we first heard, like when we first found out that my middle son Parker was autistic. It was a lot scarier then because like you didn't know anything. All you see is like what's in front of you, and the progress could be so slow.
Mm-hmm.
But as like time goes on, like you start to like really like kind of like get into all like the day-to-day stuff, and like kind of you have to learn to like relearn how to parent, because you can't do anything the same way.
Yeah. So Isbrick is asking if your kids have any special interests and if they are alike in any way.
Yes, my oldest son Michael loves video games just like me. For me, let's see. My middle son Parker is obsessed with the anime Yokai Watch and stuffed animals. Like my house is covered in stuffed animals. Like I'm not lying. I think we have somewhere close to like 100 stuffed animals
That was
that we've
me as a
bought for
kid.
him.
I had so
Yeah.
many stuffed animals. We had like giant bags that were meant for like a team's worth of soccer balls filled with
Yeah.
stuffed animals.
Yeah, that's how it is at our house. He loves to like lay them all out on the floor, and then he'll like just lay in them, and then he'll start making little piles, and then he'll like rearrange them into like scenes. And Jacob is really just like like in a lot of ways just an average kid. Like likes movies, like music. Likes coloring. All the things that 5-year-olds like to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. I mean, I don't know. It's like it's something that's so foreign to me, and actually, I may end up having my own introduction to working with kids of varying levels on in the autism spectrum, and not this one, and like some that maybe on the autism spectrum, and most that are not. I just applied for a summer camp position teaching scuba to kids ages 8 to 17. Some of it's like snorkeling, like for the young kids, you mostly just take them snorkeling. You're not actually putting them like underwater.
Right.
But my friend had worked at it last summer, and she said that there was definitely a boy who was like on the spectrum, and they knew he was on the spectrum, and it was one of those moments where he would like, there's like certain scuba certifications that you can get for like, even if you have like a mental handicap, which
you can
not
really
aware of.
Yeah, you can do a lot with any kind of any kind of disability. What it really boils down to is like, if you can actually perform and do the tests. You know, like
right.
we were like very concerned about Parker. You know, when he was that classic locked in stage. Like what kind of future he was going to have. Like, I like to joke, you know, I need to live forever, you know, because like I don't ever like want my kids to ever have anyone else but me, you know, taking care of them, you know. But like, you know, now as like he's learning to speak, like speaking, you know, 3-word sentences unprompted, you know, and all that good stuff. Like he can count, he knows his colors, you know, and he's only in 1st grade. And I constantly joke, you know, hey, if we can just keep his delay, you know, that's the big thing with autism is delays, you know, delays in speech, delays in learning, delays in, you know, cognition. If we can like keep his delay at a 2-year gap, you know, then like when we get him to 25, you know, he'll only be, you know, at a 2-year delay of like a 23-year-old, you know, and what 25-year-old man isn't a little stunted?
I've met plenty.
Yeah.
25-year-olds that don't even act close to like 15. So if it's only 2 years, you're doing good by that point.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Like this poor kid is like going to be, you know, like as he like, you know, gains more and more skills, he's going to be so like overeducated, you know.
Yeah.
But
no,
But yeah, they're doing great, and like that's kind of like, you know, kind of like one of the big reasons why like I wanted to, you know, ask if you do that, you know, if I would complete your donation goal for today, so that, you know, just increase awareness so that people know, you know, it's not, you know, it's not like what it seems like. It's not as hopeless, you know. That's always such a big thing in like, you know, the autism parents community. It's hope, you know. And hope kind of like runs out pretty quick sometimes.
Yeah, I watched a really interesting video the other day, and it was a woman who has a severely autistic son who is violent, and she was talking about how, like, you know, like all the last times, I don't know, you may have seen this video, but she was talking about all the last times, like the last time that you, like, you know, wipe your kid's nose, like you never know when it's going to be the last time before they get too old, or the last time that you know, give them a kiss on the cheek, or the last time that you hold their hand, or those kind of things. And she was talking about how with having kids with autism, when it was that severe, how like she realized when the last time that she like genuinely thought that things would be okay, and that their kid could have like a really full and productive, like, you know, that like, you know, and part of it is she's, you know, talking about how her son is he's really on there on the autism spectrum, like he's got it bad, and how like
that's a really tough situation, and like the only thing you can do is just keep doing the therapies, like commit and trust to the process, because like I've been there, you know. It was really difficult to get any kind of reaction out of Parker when he was really little, you know. Like he wouldn't even stare at you, you know. And for his mom, that was really hard, you know. For me, it was kind of like, all right, I'm just gonna keep, you know. But for her, it was really tough, and which is it. I got to tell you, the the moment I know that my wife knew things were going to start to be okay, I've been practicing with Parker on the sly how to say mama, you know, and because she never heard him say that, you know, like just such a simple little thing that all kids say to, like, you know, their mom, you know. I've been practicing with him on the sly how to say mama, and we were at this local zoo that we go to, and I had just walked back from getting him something, like a little treat, and I was holding him in my arms, even though he's like 7 and humongous. Right. and what was it? I looked at him and I said, "Where's Mama?" And he pointed right at my wife and he said, "Mama." And like she had this moment like of not recognizing like what just happened, and then like her face just like lit up. You know, that was awesome.
I hope you got like best husband award right there, like like champion dad award.
I try. You know what though? Like I really, it's funny that you say that, because like I kind of like think of it the same way. You know, like a lot of other stuff. It's like, you know, like, no, this is the job. Like this is what you do. You know, like this is how you know, this is how you got to operate with this. You know, like this is the standard. You know, and if you're not doing that, then you know you're not fulfilling what you're supposed to do. So, you know, I always try to meet that.
Wow. Man, you are a great dude.
Well, thank you. It's really nice. Thank you so much for having me on the stream. I feel like we went way past 5 minutes.
It always happens. But you're telling good stories, and like they're heartfelt, and it means a lot. And I care. I legitimately do. At my work, we normally do a autism awareness fundraiser, and we have, you know, like our coin jars, and then we have one night where a certain percentage of our sales all goes to autism awareness. Our local police department has a really great fundraiser that they do, and that they put on, and they get a lot of local businesses involved. And but unfortunately, I don't know, maybe I'll see if I can get them to do it later in the month. I'm not sure if it's going to be feasible, but just because of the whole fire issue and us being closed for a month, and the restaurant's not doing that great right now. But yeah, I will, like 100%. Like you had said, like, oh, you know, I should do a charity stream. I was gonna do it regardless of whether the donation was filled or not. So I appreciate that immensely. But we'll raise some money. Is there a charity in particular that is best to donate to, in your opinion?
My opinion, the best one to donate to, non-specifically, there's so many intermediate units, which are the units of like social work in each state in the US that handle all of, you know, like the therapies and all of that. You could always donate to them. But I really love donating to Autism Speaks, because they do so much for awareness, do so much for inclusion, and, you know, just do so much for, you know, for people and parents and families, especially families on the spectrum. You know, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be this, you know, educated, you know, because, you know, as much as the nice things you said about me, like, I really am just like a very like typical dude, and I would not be as well informed, you know, if it wasn't for them. So Autism Speaks every time.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely will do. We'll make sure all the goodies go towards Autism Speaks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Isbrick does want to. He said, having lived half my life being told I was, quote, way behind for just social skill reasons, I can stand by your take. It's really sad some people have to live a long time believing you're not intelligent, but later realize being hyper intelligent in exchange for social skills, tactile feedback, audible and visual sensitivity. He said earlier that he has Asperger's. So. Oh,
okay. I didn't catch that on the stream. Thank you. Yeah, Isbrick. Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. That sucks. That's not cool. And, you know, you just gotta like keep believing in yourself. You know, like just have faith in who you are and what you're doing, and, you know, don't, you know, as someone in a movie once said, "Don't let the bastards grind you down."
Yeah. Cool. Well, and so I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I did date someone for quite a while who I believe had Asperger's, and the main reason that I say this is, one, he did have definite tendencies that would lean towards Asperger's. He did have the social awkwardness. He had the interests in very specific, very specific interests that are like just those kind of tendencies. And I hadn't really thought too much into it until I was having dinner with him and his dad. And his dad is this farmer from Utah, right? Middle of Utah. And
Okay.
And he was a truck driver also. They owned a farm, and he was a truck driver. And we
Awesome.
met him because he lives in Utah on the road, and I live in California, or we lived in California. And we met him on the way home from a conference in like Sacramento. And we like met up at this random truck stop for a dinner. And so it was just the three of us, me, him, and his dad. And at one point, the old boyfriend goes to the bathroom. And at that moment, his dad just looks at me and he's like, "I have a question for you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Do you think my son has autism?" And I was just like,
Wow.
"What?" Like,
wow.
holy crap. Like, and this was like, I mean, we had been dating for like 8 months or so. And I was just, and this is the first time I've ever met his dad. And I was like a little floored. And I was like, I don't know how to handle this. I never told him about it. I never told him that his dad flat out asked me while I was in the bathroom if I thought that he had autism. Because that's just, I was like, we're just not going to go with this. I was like, whew.
Yeah, Will.
Whew, that's hard.
Wilbram says that is the best meet the parents dinner date ever.
Yeah, at a truck stop, and he asked me if I think his son is, and I was like, no. Like,
yeah, what do you do? What do you do?
All he really wanted was like reassurance.
Like,
he's just this uneducated farmer. I don't know why. Like at this point, so at that point, I had no idea why. This was out of the blue. I was like, what? Like, had no clue why he was asking me if I thought his son had autism. And, like, it made no sense to me. I didn't realize at the time, like, this was when, like, this was a couple years ago. So they were just starting to kind of blend Asperger's and autism together.
Yep.
Like, in, like, the public realm of, like, people saying, like, Asperger's is a type of autism.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't put those two together.
Yeah, there was a time when there was, like, a bunch of different diagnoses.
Right.
And now it's all on one spectrum, and they have a placement for you on the spectrum. That's according to the DSM-5, I think is the nomenclature.
So,
but yeah, it's made it confusing.
Yeah, so, but to continue the story, later, and his parents are obviously a little weird, and this is his biological father, his stepfather, and his biological dad was, like, there until he was about 5, and then his parents split up, and he was with his mom, and his dad, like, moved back to Utah to work on the family farm, so he, like, really wasn't close with his dad at all, which was the other part of it, like, he maybe got a phone call on his birthday kind of thing. And I knew this. And he's, like, asking me if his son has autism. And I'm just like, oh, shit. Like,
I met you 20 minutes ago, bro.
Right. So later, like, months later, his mom was up. He was graduating from college. And his parents were up there for the graduation, his mom and stepdad. And they were sitting with me and my mom, who was there, because she lives up here. So she came for his graduation also. And apparently, while I was not there briefly, his mom just starts talking to my mom about how when he was like young, I'm not sure quite how old, that they had suspected that he had Asperger's and taken him to a psychologist. I don't know if it's psychologist or psychiatrist. Psychologist, I'm assuming.
There's both.
I'm assuming
I think
psychologist
it can be
for the diagnosis. They took
Yeah.
him to a psychologist to find out if he had Asperger's, and basically they said, maybe we'll need to do follow-ups, and then they dropped the ball and never did any follow-up.
Wow, that's really tough, because like the most important thing you can do is early intervention, which is like getting in and getting them getting therapy, not like psychologically, like not so much psychological something's wrong with me therapy.
Well, no,
therapy,
but
as
it's like helping you be able to cope.
Speech. Yep, speech therapy, occupational therapy. One of the funny things with my oldest son, Michael, he's a very he's what you call Asperger's, is his handwriting. His handwriting is terrible, like terrible, and that's just one of the things that comes with being on the autism. That's one of the therapies that he gets is occupational therapy for and speech therapy, for the social part, to understand when to talk, when not to talk.
Yeah, and those were like the cues that he was missing. Like, granted, I will say that, like, I still don't know if he has Asperger's or not. I would say that if he does, he's very high functioning, because he's very this old boyfriend. He's very independent, very, very good about those things. But his social skills were definitely lacking, and as is common with a lot of people with Asperger's, they can, like, he and I got on super well. There wasn't that disjointedness between, but it was like pretty much just with me, like.
Yeah, that happens a lot too. Like, there'll be people that like they'll connect with, that they'll be able to kind of like break those boundaries with with those individuals, and it's called bonding,
right?
And they'll be able to bond with them and make those social connections, and do all those things and do very well. And then other times, either it's like situational, or it's like with a specific person or a specific situation. There's also like a whole sensory thing, and all of that can get in the way. It gets really, really deep and really, really complicated.
Yeah. No, and it was what was super interesting about it was like, and it was hard for me, because once his mom had this conversation with my mom, and then my mom later told me, and I was like, oh my god, this connects back with like the crazy dad conversation I had 4 months ago.
Right.
Like, holy shit, like, we're coming full circle, it's all making sense now. And I tried talking with him about it a little bit, mainly because he brought up a coworker of his that he thought had Asperger's, and I was like, oh really? Let's talk about this. Like, and I was like, talking about how you could be really high functioning and you can totally live a normal life, and that like maybe just seeking some therapy and like, counseling on those kind of things would be beneficial, and like it's not a big deal to have Asperger's, and like, what really helps is really just finding out more, and all of those things before I ever like brought it up to him that he might have Asperger's. Like I was like planning this out. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make this look so good, and I'm gonna bring it in the best light, and we'll talk about how like how you could do really well regardless of having Asperger's or not, especially if you're high functioning. And then I finally and I was doing my research. I'm like looking up stuff on like how do you broach this to people as an adult, like who are not not gonna be like. And he also was depressed later. Not at that point, he wasn't necessarily depressed, but later he was. And so like I was doing my best, like really trying.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So many people like wouldn't even do that. We had this one principal that that was Michael was in like what was this one school, and part of like Michael's problem is like modulating his voice, like learning when to be loud and when not to be loud and when to be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And when things happen that he doesn't like, he'll yell. And I remember the principal who knew he was autistic, like came running out of her office and like screamed in his face and like, "We're not starting that right now, are we?" And I was like, "Hey, we're gonna have a conversation. It's gonna go like this." And, but yeah, so many people, even in the field that's supposed to know what to do, don't even care that much. So that's really awesome that you cared.
Yeah. And it definitely, I mean, like, I can, obviously end the relationship. We dated for a while after that. And, like, it obviously didn't work out, seeing as he's an old boyfriend. But, that was, and I don't want to say that it was, like, I don't necessarily think it was the Asperger's that really made it difficult. But he really did not get along with any of my family. And made it horrifically apparent. Like, he would...
Deal breaker.
Yeah, he would refuse to be in, like, social situations around my family, but he'd also be upset if he wasn't invited. Again, this is like things where I'm like, okay, it makes sense. I get it. And I had talked with my family about this and, like, my concerns, and none of them ever said anything about it. They all knew that, like, we're not going to talk about this. And I was just like, this is something that, I like told them, like, look, after this conversation I had with his mom, like, this is what I'm pretty sure. Because at one point, like, his mom and I had this really long phone conversation, and she was talking about how, like, when he was a little boy, like, he was very kind of OCD and very particular about lots of things, and that was why they ended up, like, taking him in to find out.
Yeah.
Because they'd, like, say good night and I love you at the end of the night. And this was, like, a crazy story that I was like, wow. Like, it's so simple, and yet, like, it made so much sense. They would, like, say good night, I love you, or he would say, like, good night, I love you. And if they did not say good night, I love you in the same way, he would just stand there and say it over again until they said exactly the same good night, I love you.
Yeah. What was it? My wife closes, what was it? I don't know if I'm allowed to say the store, but anyway, she's a manager at a retail store, and she closes every Friday night. So every Friday night, the kids are with me, and every Friday night, before we go to bed, I play the ukulele for them for about 15, 20 minutes. I learned the ukulele just for my... And sometimes, like, the kids will be, like, really, really tired and really, really wound up. And so we'll just have to, like, just get them into bed and, get them to lay down. But Michael is like, you're going to play music, right? You're going to play music, right? And he, like, will not rest until he hears some ukulele music.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just, it's crazy when it's, like, little things like that really kind of tip you off on, things going forward. Like, a lot of kids, like, they'd be bummed, but it wouldn't be, like, the end of the world, and... Yeah, that's the thing, like, I kind of, like, try to tell people is, like, it's really not, it's like, it seems like the end of the world, and it's terrifying, and it's huge, and, like, whatever you're feeling, like, absolutely, like, you need to feel that at that moment, but, like, don't, like, get stuck in that. It's like, don't get stuck in that, because you never know what's going to happen. And as long as you keep trying, you're always doing what is best for your kid. That's the most important thing. Just, like, never quit. Right.
I joke all the time. I'm part of a Facebook Autism Dads group, and I joke all the time, and I put the meme up of Captain America, after when he's fighting Tony Stark. And he says, I can do this all day. And I'm like, that's exactly how it feels a lot of time. Just beat the crap out of, like, you just got your butt kicked, but, like, I can do this all day. you know, because you got to.
Right.